with all of you.
Good morning. Well, I'm trying to get this video started off, and I didn't look who shows up. There's Patch, the fan favorite. 22 degrees this morning, coldest morning of the season so far. Got a very controversial subject today. But before we get to that, I got their waters plugged in last night. I knew it was going to be cold. They'd be out of water this morning. So let me get these waters filled up and a bit of chat about heat. Well, Patch wants to help, apparently. Well, Patch, say hi to all the subscribers. By the way, for those of you that don't know this trick, to keep algae growth from your water, put a piece of copper pipe or something in with your water, and that'll keep the algae growth from growing. Okay, so the subject for today is to heat or not heat your chicken coop. And I understand this can be a very controversial subject. You're going to have team always heat your coop and team never heat your coop. And I think there's going to be a blend of people that are going to be somewhere in the middle. Maybe they do sometimes, maybe sometimes they don't. We are definitely on team no heat, but I definitely want to explain our reasoning behind that. And again, I think there's no wrong answer here. It's whatever you feel is best for you. I just feel that it's not proper for what we're trying to do here. And I just want to give maybe some details that might help you make an informed decision on what you might want to do with your chickens. All right, so I made myself a list here. And to go along with, again, we're team no heat. You know, there's obviously going to be some exceptions there. Obviously, when they are chicks, you have to give them heat. That's there's no way you can get around that. The chicks require a certain level of heat, around 95 degrees for the first week or so, and then you start lowering that down. Once they're fully feathered, they can generally be outside without too much worry. Now, even when they're fully feathered like this, you know, if we were to see very cold temperatures, you know, down around 10 degrees or so when they were even fully feathered, but still only maybe 8 weeks old, we would probably give them some heat. But as you can see, they're very well developed, and I can see the down feathers on this one have developed nicely, and these chickens here now can pretty much sustain pretty much any temperatures. So when you're selecting breeds of chickens, if you're in a cold climate, we're in zone 5 here in Minnesota, in southern Minnesota, which means temperatures down to 20 or 30 degrees below zero, you definitely want to select cold weather breeds. If you are going to keep them outside, the fancy chickens like the silkies, those types will not do well in cold climates without some type of supplemental heat. So you definitely want to take that under consideration. We've very carefully selected our breeds of chickens to ensure that they are cold hardy breeds because we knew that we were not going to be providing any type of supplemental heat to them when they're out here. I want you to keep in mind that the birds that live around your property or in your neighborhood are wild birds. They don't need any heat. They obviously live outside without any type of heat whatsoever. The finches and the robins and the eagles and the hawks, they live out in the weather and the elements without any type of heat whatsoever. To go along with that, those birds were born and lived their entire lives also without heat. And I think that's an important part of why we don't give our chickens any extra heat, because we never have. And they have learned to adapt and live in our environment here without any type of supplemental heat. And I think that's very important. If, say, for example, we were to get a little cold snap here for, I don't know, 10 degrees, and we felt bad and feel like we want to set a heat lamp out there for them for a couple nights, well, then you're committed to that. They get used to that heat. Their bodies develop, their feathers and down develop, and don't think that they need to work as hard because this external heat source is on them. And in the event of a power outage, for example, then you could be putting them at risk by giving them that little heat for a couple days, and then they lose it. You could actually be doing them more harm than good. So the other thing is, if you do put heaters in your coop, heaters are inherently dangerous. It's the number one cause of fires in chicken coops are heaters. There are some heaters out there that are deemed to be relatively more safe than others. I've seen some people use infrared heaters, maybe some oil-filled heaters. So yeah, there might be some solutions out there, but still, you're talking about a heat source in a coop that is generally a very dusty environment with the chickens running around, kicking up dust and stuff. And it's just an inherently dangerous thing that we would prefer to avoid. One of the most important environments that you can give for your chickens in the winter is just an area that is free from weather and elements and wind. That is one of the main reasons we built this bigger coop here, not only because we picked up some more chickens, but the old coop that we had over there last winter, when it was cold and snowy, the chickens just stayed on their roost all day long. And the run that we had out there for them was open on one side. The wind and the snow would come in, and they certainly weren't going to hang out there. And if it was a snowy day, they certainly weren't going to be outside either. And so they just roosted all day long, which really is not good for them either. They need to be out and about and kind of being chickens. So having this run here with the plastic on it, we don't get any wind in here whatsoever. So we feel that even on the coldest day this winter, even if it's snowy and terrible and windy outside, they can at least come out from their roosts and come down here in the pen and mingle around. We can come out here and throw some treats out for them, and they can still somewhat be chickens, even though they can't necessarily be outside. Just to go back on the climate a little bit, if you are in a warmer climate down south where you typically don't see cold or sub-freezing temperatures, and there's a cold snap that comes through, it does happen. It seems like every winter. It seems like a couple of years ago or a few years ago when that big cold snap stretched all the way down there to Texas, and they had a real bad issue down there with freezing and stuff. Yeah, I can see where you would probably want to give your chickens supplemental heat for a few days because they simply were not used to that environment. They didn't grow up in that. Again, our chickens have free reign on our property. They go wherever they want, and they've kind of developed their own little ecosystem, so to speak. They know their little pockets of areas where they like to eat, and they have cover in certain areas from predators and the heat, and they've just sort of developed their own mesh with our property here. So again, if you live in a southern climate and there's a winter cold snap that comes through, yeah, I could totally see where it would be appropriate to add some supplemental heat. Last winter in this area, the coldest temperature we saw was towards the end of December. It got down to, I think, minus 18 was what the National Weather Service was reporting. So we did see some sub-zero temperatures, and our chickens survived, just fine without any supplemental heat whatsoever. So let me know what you think. I'd love to continue this conversation. If you have an opinion on it, put a comment down below in the comment section. Let's keep things civil. We understand that some people are going to be team heat, team no heat. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. I think there's probably a good mesh in between of people that are going to have a variety of different opinions somewhere in the middle there. You do what works for you. I just thought that we would put this out to let everybody know what we do here and why we feel it's best for our particular homestead. Again, we don't want to give heat. We select cold hardy breeds for that particular reason. We don't want to get into a situation where we do heat and we lose power for a few days, and then you have no heat and your chickens are not used to that, and then you're really going to have a problem. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Okay, and I didn't want to forget, I know, the fan favorite. Everybody wants to see Patch before we go. Hi, Patch. We haven't named this one yet, but she's super friendly too. Hello. Yes. We'll see you next time, everybody.